Jeff Bezos didn't get rich by working harder. He got rich the moment he stopped seeing time as a cost and started treating it as equity. Most people believe wealth is built through effort, opportunity, or luck. That's why they trade hours for dollars, chase hacks, and burn out chasing scale. But the top 1% operate on a different cognitive operating system. For them, every hour isn't spent, it's invested. Not in tasks, in outcomes that compound silently, invisibly, relentlessly. Bezos didn't optimize his calendar to do more. He redesigned it to own the future by allocating time like shares in a company only he could build. If you're still measuring your day in to-do lists, you're not building wealth, you're renting your life to someone else's priorities, and that mental shift? That's not productivity, that's power. You do not run out of time, misallocate it. Most people treat time like cash, something to spend until it is gone, but the top 1% treat it like equity, a finite, non-renewable stake in their future self. Every hour is a share they issue. And once it is gone, they never get it back, because returns can compound for decades. Picture this. Two founders wake up at 6 a.m. One checks Slack, replies to Fiverr urgent messages, and feels productive by 8. The other blocks 3 hours for a single strategic decision, say, well, they're to kill a product line draining focus. By noon, the first has cleared noise. The second has reshaped their company's trajectory. Bezos did not become the world's richest man by doing more. He became rich by doing less, but only of what did not compound. In his own words, I knew that when I was 80, I would never regret investing more time in Amazon. Notice, he did not say, working more. He said investing. That is not semantics. That is sovereignty. Here is what neuroscience reveals. When you frame time as equity, your brain shifts from reactive mode to ownership mode. M3 studies show that just reframing a choice as an investment versus a cost activates the ventromedial prefrontal cortex, region tied to long-term value assessment, while suppressing amygdala-driven urgency signals. In plain terms, you stop reacting. You start allocating. And this is not theoretical. At Blue Origin, Bezos mandated 2 pizza teams, small enough that no meeting required more than 2 pizzas to feed everyone. Why? Because large meetings dilute ownership. They turn shareholders into spectators. He protected time like intellectual property, because in truth, it is the only asset you cannot borrow, steal, or scale. So look at your calendar right now. Not your to-do list, your actual calendar. How many hours this week are spent on your future versus in service to someone else's present? Because here's the silent truth. Busy people trade time for validation. Healthy people trade validation for time. And if you are still measuring productivity and tasks completed, you are operating on borrowed time, renting your most valuable assets to strangers, while your future self goes bankrupt in silence. But that changes the moment you realize. You are not a worker managing minutes. You are the sole founder of a one-person corporation called your life. And every hour you allocate is a vote for who you will become or who you will never be. Discipline does not build empires. Elimination does. You have been sold a lie. That success is about willpower, routines, or waking up at 5 p.m. spectrum, but the real leverage is not in doing. It's in not deciding. Imagine your brain as a server room. Every trivial choice, what to eat, which email to answer, whether to attend that meeting, sends a request to your cognitive CPU. Most people run their minds like an overloaded startup, 0 background processes, constant lag, thermal throttling by noon. Bezos engineered a different system. In his 2016 shareholder letter, he introduced the Type I to Type 2 decision framework. Not as a productivity tip, but as a neural offloading protocol. Type I, high consequence, Irreversible decisions. These get deep focus, slow deliberation, full executive bandwidth. Type 2. Reversible, low-stakes calls. These are delegated, automated, or made in under 30 seconds, never allowed to occupy premium mental real estate. He did not just make fewer decisions. He designed a cognitive architecture where 90% of daily noise never reached conscious awareness. And it worked. While competitors burned cycles, debating office layouts or logo shades, Amazon moved with terrifying speed because Bezos had already pre-authorized entire categories of action. Neuroscience backs this ruthless. The average adult makes 35 decisions a day. But elite performers, they outsource or eliminate 98% of them before they even surface. A University of Virginia study found that reducing daily micro-decisions by just 30% increases working memory capacity by 22% within 48 hours. Your brain is not lazy. Sure is conserving fuel for asymmetric bets. So ask yourself, how many decisions are you still making today that could have been automated, deleted, or delegated last year? Because here is what no one tells you. Willpower is not your bottleneck. Cognitive clutter is. And once you stop making small decisions, your brain finally has bandwidth for the one skill the top 1% guard like a secret, the ability to see patterns no one else can, because their mind is not drowning in noise. That is not focus, that is foresight. And it only emerges in silence you design, not in discipline you force. Wealth is not what you earn. It is what you can walk away from. Most people chase income like it is freedom. But real power reveals itself in a single moment. When you say, no, nothing bad happens. Picture sovereignty as a silent force field around your time, energy, and attention. Below the threshold, you negotiate. You compromise. You attend meetings you despise because rent is due. Above it, your calendar obeys your vision, not someone else's urgency. Bezos did not build Amazon to get rich. He built it to buy back his autonomy and then some. In 1997, he turned down a $750 million acquisition offer from Yahoo. Not because he knew Amazon would be worth trillions, pay because accepting would have meant surrendering control over his own timeline. He chose optionality over certainty, and that choice became the foundation of everything that followed. Here is the data most miss. A 2023 Stanford study tracked 200 high-earning professionals over 5 years. Those who reported high financial freedom were not the ones with the biggest salaries, or the ones who could decline requests without consequence. Income correlated weakly with well-being. Sovereignty correlated at 0.89. This is not philosophy. It is leverage physics. Every yes below your threshold, drains neural bandwidth. Every forced compromise triggers low-grade threat response, cortisol leaks that erode executive function over time. But above the threshold, your nervous system shifts from defense to creation. You stop scanning for danger. You start scanning for asymmetry. So ask yourself, what are you still saying yes to? Only because you have not yet built the buffer to say no. Because here is the truth no one admits. Autonomy does not come from saving. It comes from a neurological recalibration most never attempt, a rewiring where your self-worth stops depending on external validation and starts anchoring in irreversible self-trust. And once that switch flips, you are no longer climbing a ladder. You are designing the terrain. You are not tired because you are working hard. You are tired because your brain is drowning in noise. Imagine your mind as a high-resolution camera. Every low-leverage task, answering trivial emails, attending status meetings, tweaking minor details. It's like spraying dust on the lens. At first, the image is still clear. But over weeks, months, years, the signal degrades, not because you have lost focus, but because your neural optics are coded in cognitive static. Bezos understood this instinctively. He banned PowerPoint at Amazon, not for efficiency, but to protect signal integrity. Narrative memos force teams to distill complexity into coherent thought. Why? Because fragmented inputs create fragmented cognition. And fragmented cognition cannot build systems that last decades. Here is what neuroscience now confirms. Routine. Low-stakes decisions do not just consume time, they trigger microactivations in the amygdala, the brain's threat detector. A 2024 Max Planck Institute study found that professionals performing 50 reversible decisions per day showed a 19% reduction in dorsolateral prefrontal cortex volume after 18 months, equivalent to early-stage executive function decline. Your brain does not distinguish between busy and under attack. It just starts shutting down high-order thinking to survive. This is why so many high performers hit a wall. They look successful externally, promotions, revenue, followers, but internally, their cognition is running on degraded firmware. They feel foggy, reactive, less creative, not from lack of effort, but from excess noise. So ask yourself, how much of your day is spent polishing lenses instead of aiming the camera? Because here is the uncomfortable truth. Hustle culture is not heroic. It is neurologically corrosive, which means the real barrier to your next level is not discipline. Teach theories permission. Permission to stop proving your worth through motion, and start protecting your mind like the rare biological instrument it is. And when you do, clarity does not return. It upgrades. The top 1% do not ask for approval. They issue themselves a license to operate, long before the world catches up. Most people wait for permission disguised as feedback, validation, or market timing. But elite performers understand. External confirmation is a lagging indicator. Real leverage begins the moment you grant yourself strategic authorization in advance. Picture your mind as a sovereign nation. For years, you have let foreign governments, bosses, peers, algorithms, cultural scripts, issue visas to your attention, time, and ambition. Every should is an occupying force. Every delayed launch is a border checkpoint erected by fear wearing the mask of prudence. Bezos did not wait for Wall Street to understand long-term losses. In Amazon's early days, he told investors, "We are willing to be misunderstood for long periods of time." That was not confidence. That was self-declared jurisdiction over his own timeline. And neuroscience reveals why this works. When you pre-authorize your actions, you shift from extrinsic motivation, reward punishment, to identity-based execution. A 2023 Harvard neuroimaging study showed that individuals who framed decisions as who I am versus what I should do activated the medial prefrontal cortex 3.2 times more intensely, triggering mirror neuron alignment with their future self. In practice, they did not try to act like leaders. They became them because their brains stopped simulating judgment and started simulating mastery. Think of the last project you have delayed, not because it is unready, but because you have not yet given yourself full clearance to ship it. That silence is not caution, it is cognitive occupation. So here is your new protocol. Before you ask, "Is this good enough?" ask, "Have I granted myself permission to lead this?" Because once you internalize that, you are no longer building wealth. You are embodying it. And embodiment does not seek applause. It simply moves, quietly, irreversibly, ahead of the curve. Real wealth is not in your bank account. It is in your nervous system. Most people chase money to feel safe. But the truly wealthy do not seek safety. It's to design asymmetry. And because of that, volatility does not trigger panic. A trader's calculation. Picture two investors watching the market crash. One grips their chair, heart racing, cortisol flooding, because their net worth is tied to external validation and short-term outcomes. The other leans forward, calm, almost curious, because their portfolio is built on irreversible advantages, optionality, time equity, and decisions that cannot be undone. Their bodies react differently, not because of balance sheets, but because of cognitive architecture. Bezos did not stay calm during Amazon's 95% stock drop in 2000 because he had cash reserves. He stayed calm because his entire decision framework was built on bets where the downside was capped and the upside was unbounded. He was not insulated from risk. He was restructured around it. Neuroscience now confirms this distinction. A 2025 study in Nature Human Behavior scanned the brains of high-net-worth individuals and control subjects during simulated financial shocks. Both groups saw the same data, but only the wealthy showed activation in the anterior insula brainus gyroceptive center, without amygdala hijack. In plain terms, they felt the uncertainty, but did not interpret it as threat. Their bodies registered change, not danger. That is the final shift. Accumulated wealth is what you own. Embodied wealth is how you inhabit uncertainty with stillness, not fear. Who do not need more money to access this state, who need a different relationship with consequence. One where your self-worth is not collateralized against outcomes, but anchored in the quiet certainty that you have already allocated your time like equity, eliminated noise like debt, and granted yourself permission like a sovereign. This is not mindset, it is physiology. And once your nervous system learns it, you stop chasing wealth, because you are already living from it. You will not become wealthy when you earn more. You will become wealthy the day you start spending your time like someone who already is. Think back. You used to believe effort was the bottleneck, that if you've just worked harder, stayed longer, optimized one more system, you would break through. But the fatigue was not from lack of discipline. It was from trading equity for pennies. Hour after hour, decision after decision, while your future self watched in silence. Now you know. Wealth is not built in spreadsheets. It is built in the quiet architecture of your attention, your permissions, your refusal to let triviality colonize your cognition. It is not what you accumulate. It is how your nervous system holds space for uncertainty without flinching. And yet, even with this clarity, a new challenge emerges. Because once you stop reacting to noise, you will face something far more demanding. Operating with precision under extreme pressure, when stakes are high, timelines collapse, and everyone else fractures. That is not stress management. That is psychological engineering. And it is exactly how Elon Musk navigates chaos without losing signal. If you are ready for that protocol, you are not alone. This is where the quiet ones gather, and not to chase results, but to embody them.